Welcome back to the World with Randall Williams, and today I would like to discuss Drake. And the reason for that is because I've been thinking a lot about the ramifications of the great rap war between him, Kendrick, and many more. But something that's still going on is his defamation case against UMG for all of the things that he's alleging and releasing defamatory material. And he alleges that they used bots and payola to promote it and reach supreme levels of success. And of course, we've had the Super Bowl. We've had Kendrick perform Not Like Us, which, I think was expected, but was speculated that he wouldn't perform it, that he wouldn't make the show about it. And I mean, even Euphoria was performed, which is nuts. And then, of course, you had some sexy songs for you drop the week after. You have Not Like Us return to number one. As of Monday, we have Luther at number one. Luther is currently tracking to be number one for next week, too. And we've had a collection of things that happened in February for both artists. I think Kendrick's hot streak continues. He's the first rapper ever to have 3 albums on the top 10 list. He has 100 million listeners on Spotify and is still growing. He's in another stratosphere right now, one that I don't even know, as a big fan of him, that I never thought he'd get to. I mean, Drake made the more commercially appealing music for over a decade, and I think Kendrick existed in areas that he wanted to. It's the best way that I can describe it, whether it was Good Kid, Mad City, or Section 80, or his releases going back to his mixtapes, even To Pimp a Butterfly and Damn, which is his highest commercially selling album to date. He just existed where he wanted to. He never, I don't think he reached as far, and I don't think he had the hits that Drake had for many years. And now we're seeing like he has 4 in a calendar year just since the beef, Like That, Not Like Us, Squabble Up, and now Luther, all in a calendar year. Whereas with Drake, we had some sexy songs drop, and it sold well. Like, it's back to number one. The Drake's number one streak continues. He tied Taylor Swift and Hove, Jay-Z for the most ever by a single artist. And it made me think as to how he can prove defamation. And the ways that you prove defamation is by saying the statement was false. Now, look, the Stan Wars have been out trying to prove that both what Drake and Kendrick said about each other are true. And the most defamatory material that both of them said was that Kendrick accused Drake of pedophilia and Drake accused Kendrick of beating his woman, and also that his child was not his own. Both sides, both fan bases have been out to prove that true. None of it has been proven. Um, I think that's one of the most annoying things about this, is that people have taken it so seriously and so to heart. I think that that Drake has had questionable behavior at times, but a full-blown pedophile, I don't necessarily believe that, and I wouldn't want that tag on somebody else if it wasn't confirmed. And so it hasn't been confirmed. I don't buy any of it right now. Nothing's been reported from the journalistic side or from a legal filing. Like, if there was a victim out there, and victims, they decide how they want to speak, if they want to speak, if something is settled privately. Nothing like that has ever gone public. I think that there have been weird situations with Drake, with the young lady on stage, with the things that came out with Millie Bobby Brown, which he addressed in the Heart Part 6, things like that. But if going based off what you need to prove defamation, statement was false, I think Not Like Us, yeah, you could say Not Like Us is false. And I think that Drake's biggest argument against that is like, prove that I am a PDF file. And I don't know that UMG would necessarily do that. I think that UMG would just claim that this is freedom of speech, and that the nature of rap battles is to say defamatory material. Now, did we expect the defamatory material to go this far? No. I mean, Kendrick teased it in Euphoria, and he took it there on Not Like Us. And then once it just got to a level that he was like, all right, since we all in, I'm a lock in, and the rest is history. Not Like Us dropped, and it was over with. Um, but that I never believed either one of these things. I just never believed either one of these things. Statement was published, of course. Not Like Us was published. UMG distributed it. UMG put it out everywhere. It was everywhere. And it's still everywhere. Like, I can't believe that a Kendrick song has had this much shelf life. Like, we've had Kendrick moments for a long time over the course of his career, but I was in the arena, or excuse me, I was in the stadium when Not Like Us played, and to hear an entire stadium full of a predominantly white crowd. And I'll preface that by saying most Super Bowls are a predominantly white crowd. When I was in Vegas with Usher, nobody really sings at these events. It's not like it's just not the audience. It's the TV audience is the one that's the most important. So when you're watching all these reactions happen, those are the ones that the NFL values. That's how they the halftime show averaged 133.5 million people tuning in, whereas the game had, I believe, 127. I believe that's the number. Um, and so those two, statement was false, statement was published, and then you have statement harmed him. Um, and I don't know how Drake can prove that. The reason that I don't know how Drake can prove that this statement harmed him is because of what's happened since. Like, if you look at Drake's album release sales, I'll Thank Me Later. I'll put a graphic up here, but Thank Me Later did 447K. Take Care did 631. Nothing Was the Same did 658. If you're reading this is too late, did 535. What a Time to Be Alive did 375. Views did a million. More Life did 500. Scorpion did 732,000. Um, Dark Lane Demo Tapes did 223. Certified Lover Boy did 613K. Honestly Nevermind did 204,000. Her Loss did 404,000. For All the Dogs did 402. And I believe uh Some Sexy Songs for You did around 246,000. And if you look at that in terms of how this tracks, this to me doesn't read as a dramatic fall off. And the reason I say that is because there's only one, no, two albums that have sold less than Some Sexy Songs for You, but it still debuted at number one. Like, it was up against stiff competition in Sabrina Carpenter and Kendrick Lamar's GNX. It still did well. Now, where it ends up after this week, I think will be interesting. I imagine that it may fall off a bit, and go to number two. But to say like, oh, Drake, he didn't have anything. Well, like, every single one of these is a number one, and you know, this is also Some Sexy Songs for You is also a number one. In terms of the songs that have charted, the highest charting songs are Give Me a Hug and Nokia, Nokia being at number 10 and Give Me a Hug being at number 7. With that in mind, I don't understand how you could say, that Not Like Us damaged him so much that, his business, his financial status has been harmed. People are still listening and tuning into your music. Nokia, I think, has the potential to be a really big summer hit if he does a music video, if he does some promo for it, if UMG gets behind it, which I expect that they will, because if they don't, that would be evidence if this case proceeds. Um, on the financial side of things, I think there's a bunch of things that just don't make sense. And one of them, a main one being, if you look at Drake's business dealings, he has a Nike deal. Nike, they haven't stopped releasing anything. Nocta, the deal that they have, there's still clothes being released. The Air Force One's being released. He has other shoes that are still coming out. If Nike thought or believed the allegations that the defamatory material that Kendrick had in Not Like Us, they would cut the deal off. They would cut the deal off. And how do I know that? Is because when Kyrie Irving was going through his ordeal with the Brooklyn Nets and the anti-Semitism things that were happening, Nike cut that. They cut that very quickly. Once it picked up steam, they ended things, and that the rest was done. If they believed that Drake was a PDF file, Nike would cut him loose. Okay, so that's one. a big deal with Nike. And artists generally don't get big deals with Nike. We might see a collaboration release every now and then. We've seen Travis Scott have one of the most successful deals to date. But generally speaking, you don't get to have a brand with Nike. You don't even get to have a signature shoe. And it's very difficult to have a Jordan release the way that Drake has. Drake has had a retro Jordan release multiple occasions, and now he has his own brand, and these shoes are continuing to sell and release. That's one. He also has to deal with Stake. There was rumors that over the past 6 weeks that that deal would close and that things were in trouble, but that deal's continued. He did the stream with Aiden Ross on Christmas, I believe. Like, Stake hasn't ended things. And how does it look to be aligned with someone like this? That's what you have to ask yourself. That's what the companies have to ask them. And I think all the companies are viewing it as just a rap battle that happened. But Drake's still selling well. Like, all of this thing, I think that he's doing a song with Knife Talk. He's doing on tour right now where he's saying spoiler alert, this it dies, and instead he's replacing the lyrics with spoiler alert, I never died. And there is some truth to that. Like, his public reputation, I think, in certain demographics has been harmed. However, to the vast majority of the public, I don't think it has, because people are still consuming his content. If you go past Stake, he had a merchandise collaboration with the NFL that released. Now, you'd think this just goes to show that these companies are in the business of making money. They don't care how they make it, as long as any laws aren't being broken most times, or as long as they don't get caught breaking laws, and they'll collaborate with anybody. Drake's merchandise collaboration, and I'll post screenshots here, but he had merchandise from the Bills, the Ravens, the Packers, the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Giants, the Raiders, the Bears, and the Saints. All of it is still on the OVO website in the midst of Kendrick Lamar performing at the Super Bowl. If the NFL was choosing a side, they wouldn't release it. And this released in January ahead of Kendrick's Super Bowl halftime show performance. Now, granted, I don't think that Drake's merchandise collaboration took off any steam of the halftime show. It was the most watched halftime show ever, the most watched broadcast ever. Like, a merchandise collaboration did nothing but prove that the NFL is fair. And shortly after that, a Kendrick Lamar merchandise collaboration released. And I have the hoodie. I even have the shirt. So proving that is a whole different thing. Now let's take it a bit further past merchandise. Drake obviously has a relationship with the Raptors. He's a global ambassador there. He has the OVO logo on their training facility. And I believe it's called the OVO training facility for the Raptors. It's still ongoing. The Raptors haven't released a statement. They haven't had to release a statement because it's a bit outrageous for either Canadian media or it's for American media to go to a professional sports franchise and ask them about a rap battle with nothing proven. Like, you would never expect that, and Kendrick or Drake would never have an interview where they'd be asked about these claims, because there's just no proof anywhere. There's no proof, whether that be Kendrick and the stupid allegations that Dave Free fathered his child, or that he hit his woman, or Drake being a PDF file that we know of. Nothing's public. We've seen questionable behavior, but no public information. You know what I mean? And from the Raptors, that's a big, big deal for them. Having Drake on their sidelines makes them cool. Like, when Kawhi Leonard was there and they won that championship, a big part of that, like, we all remember the memes of Drake saying, like, we built this and stuff, like funny things like that, where he's celebrating. He's very much a big part of that city. He's what I identify Toronto is with. Like, I think of Drake before I think of any sports franchise that's in Toronto. And the Raptors are cognizant of that. They know how important he is. If they believed that, they would cut the relationship off. And a telltale sign of that is when the Toronto Tempo, the WNBA team that the Raptors were awarded, were announced. Drake was there. He was there, having what I would say a good time with Raptors representatives, with the organization. And if they didn't want him there, they wouldn't have him there. Now, I do think that he definitely pissed them off by saying what he said about DeMar DeRozan and saying, like, oh, you put a DeRozan jersey up there, I'm gonna go up to the Raptors and to the rafters and tear it down or bring it down. But and there's rumors that there was a 1 year ban of him on the broadcast, whatever. But they haven't ended the relationship. And it's not because of Not Like Us. Like all of these things have happened. And I haven't even mentioned the tours. Like I haven't mentioned the tours. He is in Australia right now, selling out tours. He's going to be going to London soon, and 135,000 tickets sold out in less than a day to see him. Like I don't know how you prove to a judge, oh, this material damaged my reputation when you're continuing to have business success. Now, you know, I just I don't know how he proves it. I don't know how he proves it because of the success that he's continued to have. Now, if he had waited, like Drake is doing this thing that he's always done, which is just drop consistently. Everyone has said, take a break, do what Cole did, remind us of why we love you. And he hasn't done that. He's put pedal to the metal. He's doing what Drake has always done. Now, if he would have taken a break and gone away for a year and a half or a year or so and came back this summer, I think his business would still be big. Like there would be I think he would be even bigger because I think there would be a sense of mystery around him. How is he dealing with this? How are his emotions? We know he's bothered. Like anybody who's saying Drake is unbothered is kind of silly. Like all of the things from the LeBron diss to him being at the DeRozan game and trying to mean mug him to the Instagram stuff to being on stream and saying various things. Like we know he's bothered by this. And even it's in some sexy songs for you where he addresses things. And I just don't see how he proves defamation for something like this because he's continued to have success. And if, you know, from a reputation standpoint, I think UMG will A, argue free speech, and B, argue that the lawsuit damaged his reputation more than anything else. And there's numerous media outlets who will cite this. And I've spoken to people, attorneys, I've spoken to, you know, and attorneys both in music and sports, and I've even contacted a couple judges um, to see what they think. And it all depends on the evidence, of course, but this is unlike any lawsuit that anyone has ever seen in this industry. And there's a good portion of people who just don't think the validity of it is solid. They think that it's a the people that I've spoken to think that this is a selfish filing and one that he'll have to have substantial evidence for. Otherwise, it's going to be dismissed very quickly. Um, we'll have to see how the next 30 days or so pans out for him. If it gets dismissed on March 17th, if things proceed on April 2nd, there's a lot of interesting dates coming up. Um, but the odds aren't in his favor right now. I can't see it. Like he's had too much success. And it goes to show that, yes, do I think that Drake is as big as he was? I think that maybe he's made just a little less small, a little less big. But we won't know until an official Drake album releases. And I don't think that there was anything on here, anything on some sexy songs for you that was really a single, really a big number one hit. Nokia has potential, but it doesn't look like right now that that song is going to grow wings and fly into the summer. I think that it'll be a fun song, but the timing of it is in February. Do I think that it will run the airways in May, June, July, and August? No. I think it'll be a cool song to play. What he does between now and then, if he drops any more singles, I think it'll be interesting because I do think there's an appetite for him, but the appetite might not be the same. I we just don't know. And another thing is, what is his relationship even like with UMG at this point? Is he even allowed to really? Is he even going to release more music? Is he motivated to release more music? Don't know. Don't know. I think UMG would still promote it all the same. But if you're Drake and you think that UMG conspired against you, do you really want to put more money into their pockets after already touring, making them back the money that is in his contract? I don't know. That's my thoughts. I think that it's just hard to prove. I think defamation is hard to prove, and I don't know. Based on what we know right now, there could be more evidence that comes out in the future. But based on what we know right now, I, I think he's going to lose this case. Um, but those are my thoughts. Let me know what you all think of Drake's defamation case and where it goes from here. I think that he'll continue to have a really incredible career. I think he has had a great 15-year run. I think that now Kendrick Lamar, the torch has been taken from him involuntarily by Kendrick, and he's having trouble dealing with that. So that's why we have this filing in the first place. What he does from here on out, I think we'll all be watching because I think that he's still a good entertainer and he still makes good music. I just think that the perception of him has changed in large part to himself and how he has reacted to this beef. So let me know what you all think. As always, I appreciate the support and any likes, comments, and subscribers who interact with these things. Continue to follow this as it proceeds in court. And this is The World with Randall Williams. See you all next time.